And now, let's return to Corporate Talk with Charlie and Eva on TalkZone.com.
Thanks for staying with us, everyone. This is segment 2 with our special guest today, Dr. Asoka Jinadasa. He is the author of Flying Penguin, How to Create Miracles in Your Life Using the 6 Dimensions of Success, which is probably the most comprehensive self-coaching book ever written, as it says on the cover, which I love that.
Our guide today is calling from the other side of the planet. He's a master trainer in human potential development.
For a long time, I was trying to find out if there's some kind of formula for success that individuals and corporates can understand and implement. And having worked in many parts of the world for nearly 40 years, I found that successful people and successful companies seem to have 6 holistic attributes, which are symbolized by heart, mind, passion, focus, body, and health. So that's what I call the 6 dimensions.
We have worked with many people from all over the world that are really good at hard skills development. And we found what's missing is the soft skills. Mm-hmm. And when we met you, Dr. Asoka, I realized that it was what you had. What made you try to go to HR and speak to that market?
Well, actually, I'm not an HR person at all. I'm an engineer. And I have been in corporate management for a long time. And I saw that we spend a lot of money on training programs, and we never produced even one Sir Richard Branson. So I asked my training guys, what are you guys doing? I need some Richard Branson. And they never produced anything like that. So through sheer desperation, I thought, okay, let me do it myself. Now, fortunately, I have been a master of Tai Chi Chuan. I have been trained by Himalayan energy masters. I know about behavioral psychology, neuroscience. So I put this whole thing together as an engineer into a formula that anybody can use to not to learn anything, but to unlearn all the negative things you learned as a child. Because every single child is born with limitless power, and we still have that power sleeping inside us. So my entire objective, I call it human potential development, is to unleash the power that we were born with. And that's the purpose of my book.
Well, and I think, too, that having that engineering background really helps, because what it does is it helps you break down a problem. So you see a problem, you're trying to get a Richard Branson and you can't find one. So how can I create one? Like, what makes a Richard Branson tick? And I really think that it's that combination of having soft skills, but also that engineering background of really being able to break down a problem, dissect it, and then come up with an elegant, concise way of bringing you to that point. The book's not big, but it's just absolutely it's full of information.
It's perfect.
When you pick up a self-coaching book, you always think that it has to be, huge. Like all the Tony Robbins books are really big, and you're just reading and reading. You can't even get through the whole book. And this just shows you quickly how to hit those, pillars of success. You were really studying. This is kind of really your life's work kind of wrapped up into this book, I'm assuming.
Yes, absolutely. That's about 40 years of information gathering. But the most amazing thing, Eva, is that I wrote it in 4 months. Mm. And my first draft was the final draft. Because I learned something, especially through some of the Himalayan techniques. Your subconscious mind has incredible power. So what I did was I used my conscious mind to collect all the material. So I told the subconscious mind, hey, baby, now it's your show. Tell me what to write. And that's what it did.
It's funny that you say that because, a lot of people will take that and say, well, that's not going to work. It does work. But the problem is, and I think this is the problem, is that we get in our own way and don't let our subconscious take over. And, your background is really amazing. I'm just going to read some of your credentials because we've only got an hour. But you're a UK qualified chartered engineer with a US doctorate in business strategy and a former fellow of the British Computer Society and the Institute of Electrical Engineers. You're a master of the Chinese martial art Tai Chi and an award winner in corporate communication, media, advertising, brand marketing, and feature filmmaking. That's just a few of your credentials. I mean, it's an amazing background. And so, I mean, who better than you to write this book? I wanted to take a dive into the 6 dimensions and starting, I know it's the heart, mind, body, passion, focus, and health. And how did you come up with these 6 dimensions? Because that's pretty comprehensive.
Well, it was like putting a jigsaw puzzle together. Heart was important because that's emotionally intelligent, how you connect with people. Then mind was also important because that's your rational, creative, and spiritual intelligence. So those 2 were clear. Then I realized that if you don't have passion, it's like having a racing car, but your gas tank is empty. So passion, I felt, was the driver. Then, unless you focus all of this towards the goal and you work towards it no matter what, that's how focus came into it. And then all of these were sitting on 2 fundamental entities, the body obviously, which is the temple that we live in, and none of this would work unless we were healthy. Mm-hmm. So that's how the 6 came together, bit by bit. And when I got all 6, I thought, okay, finally I've got it.
And, when you work with people and you talk to people and they go through your book, are there any 2 that stand out as ones where people struggle with more, or is there any 1 or 2 that stand out as ones that people struggle with more, or do people struggle with all of them?
Mainly health. And the reason is that the research that I did for my book shows that the cause of every single illness is processed food. Now, I can vouch for that because I was born in a little town called Deniyaya in Sri Lanka 70 years ago. And
wow.
You know how old I am. And I never heard of people having heart disease, diabetes, cancer, osteoporosis, none of these. We never heard of things like that. I also found that there were many tribes in many parts of the world. There were no illnesses, and very interestingly, there was no crime as long as they used unprocessed tribal food. The moment they started using these modern food, not only were they dying of cancer, but crime became a serious problem. Isn't that amazing?
That is amazing. I had never heard that before, but that to me makes sense. When you don't feel good, you're not going to do good things in the world. I mean, it just sort of makes sense to me that people get angry, they start fighting with each other. They're just not right. They're not happy. They're not healthy.
I give 132 online references. So the book itself is very small. Flying Penguin, it's only 139 pages. But for anyone who wants to go deeper, there are 132 online references and 36 print references.
Wow.
Wow. Well, and we met Dr. Asoka, and he looks amazing.
You look amazing.
Yes, he is the picture of good health.
It's 100% proof, just looking at you, but also talking to you, that the 6 dimensions of success are important.
Well, and I just wanted to go back to what you said about that, when the food changed, they started having crime and all these diseases. When you think about that there was no crime prior to that and there was no disease prior to that, that is such a huge wake-up call about getting healthy, because I can see what you're saying. That would be number one place where people struggle, because I think it can be tough to figure out what to eat and what to eat to keep you really, feeling your best, especially when you weren't raised that way. And there's so many processed foods now. And so many kids are like in school being fed these school lunches that just look awful. We just saw that the other day. We went to see a movie and they were showing what kids in France eat, and they have these amazing meals every day. Like they even had an appetizer with scallops, like little 10-year-old kids. But here, that's not the case. And they were showing what school children here eat, and it's all processed and it looks awful for the most part. And so when you hear a study that there was no crime when everyone was healthy, that just shows you that you can't reach your potential if you don't feel well, I would think.
We give the best quality petrol and diesel to our vehicles. Highest quality. We would never dream of putting kerosene. But then our stomachs, we put any old rubbish. So no wonder it doesn't work.
That's so true. That is so true. That's a really good comparison because I never thought about that in the car, we want to make sure we get that premium gas to make sure the car runs correctly. But, we'll go when we're filling up the car with premium, you'll go inside to the Fast Mart at the gas station and just grab something off the shelf. Which do you feel is the next most important dimension?
Well, in Asia, the next one is passion. Because, every single child is born with an incredible amount of energy. And I noticed that in many Asian countries, parents don't like that. They tell their children to behave. And as a result of that, this fire that we were born with, we keep it under control. That's why Asians are very well behaved. And that's the problem. Yeah, compared to in the West, you all don't have that kind of restrictive influence on children. See, a very little child learns how to walk without a teacher, learns how to talk without a teacher. And if you give them a smartphone, long before they know how to read, they know how it works. Mm-hmm. That's not possible. Then what we do is that then the parents gradually tell them, no, you don't know how to do this. Come here, I'll show you how to do that. So unfortunately, the good news is that this vast human potential that we were born with is still sleeping inside us. We haven't lost it. And in my training programs, using the techniques I describe in Flying Penguin, in 4 hours, I can transform people who think they are chickens into soaring eagles, because they are eagles anyway.
So you're saying that the passion is in there. It could be suppressed, but it's in there, and you can help us get it out.
Yeah, for example, very serious people. I have very serious executives who come for my training programs. Mm-hmm. So in the first 2 minutes, I make them get up and dance to Bhangra music. And these are total shock. They are serious people. We didn't come here to dance. But something amazing happened. Bhangra music is this wonderful Indian music which makes you dance. In 2 minutes, after they dance, I see the entire energy has changed. Now they have that childhood innocence, and their brains are more relaxed, so they're much more creative. And that's the reason, I think, why children of 5, they're like learning machines. They can learn 3 languages, they can sing, they can dance, they know maths, they know science, they can do anything. So once you encourage adults to rediscover the magic of their childhood, they change. And for me, that is really the soft skill development, which is important. Take them back to their childhood. They will discover the rest.
And I know when I was small, I spoke English and Polish. I spoke Polish until I think I was 5, and then they said I started picking up English. But people would ask me, did you get confused? And I said, no, never. You know who to speak Polish to, and you know who to speak English to. You just know. No one tells you. You just figure it out. But yet, so many times you hear people always looking for their passion. What's my purpose? What's my life's purpose? And we all know it. It's always in there. It's just that it's gotten stifled. Whatever you like to do as a kid, maybe that wasn't what fit into the classroom. And so they kind of stifled your creativity, and you learn to start covering it up. And then what you're doing by tapping into the creative side of the brain is you start to loosen it up. But in order to get those people to dance, that's got to be like pulling teeth. I'm sure that they do not like you when
takes courage
when they first start.
It takes courage for sure.
No, so I really love that. I love that tapping into the whole creative side. And I would be one too that I would not be crazy about the whole dancing part.
You're very easy to listen to. That goes a long way in retaining and also believing in what you say. Now, is that something that can be gained as a result of mastering the 6 dimensions, or either you have that or you don't?
Well, you have it anyway. Different people have it at different levels. Now, some children are very good in music. Some are very good in painting. So given the fact that some children have specific talent, our job is to nurture that. Now, what we do very often, we try to fit them into a model that we have in mind. For example, if the parents are lawyers, they don't want a child to become a painter. So right from an early age, they would discourage the child from painting and say, look, lawyers are much more successful, they have a great time. Maybe you should think about it. That's true, isn't it?
No, it's really
It's
true.
absolutely true.
Yeah, and I think sometimes it doesn't even have to be that overt. I think it could be a lot more subtle than that, where the child just kind of picks up that when they're good in their verbal skills or they're good with their studies, they get praised much more than maybe when they paint something. They don't get the same amount of praise. So I think that the shift can be very subtle.
Right.
And where does fear come into play with all this? Like, I know that fear can hold a lot of people back. And how do you address fear?
Well, I have a very simple formula for that. Any negative emotion, these are strong. They're difficult to overcome. So the way to handle emotions like fear, anger, envy is to change your point of view. For example, say you were a tennis player and you lost 3 matches. Now you can look at it in one of 2 ways. You can say, I'm going to give up tennis. This is never going to work. Or you come home very happy and everybody asks, hey, what happened? Did you win the match? You say, no, I lost the match. Wow. Now I know that my backhand is weak. I'm going to improve my backhand. So just by changing your point of view, your thoughts change, your words change, your action changes. Everything changes by changing the point of view.
Somehow.
Right. Then there's another thing. Now I found that, say, for example, fear. The moment you're scared of something, your body kind of contracts, whereas a very confident person would be walking tall and looking big. Now, interesting thing I found when I was writing Flying Penguin, there was a research study that showed that you can use your body to influence your emotion. So anytime you're feeling scared, in spite of the fact that your knees are shaking, if you walk tall, breathe into your stomach, immediately that negative emotion changes. That's an amazing thing because our body is totally under our control, whereas the emotions are not.
I learned that from Muhammad Ali, who would never appear to be afraid. And, he would say afterwards or later on I was, but I had to convince myself. And the way he did, exactly like you're saying, is by looking the part.
But it's so true. It's such a simple thing, and nobody teaches us that. I mean, these are the skills, like you need all the skills that you learn in school, like all the book learning, but no one teaches you how to look confident when you're just losing it in a meeting. No one teaches you that. Like some people just have it naturally and other people struggle with it. And when you start feeling that fear and you start contracting, I mean, that really does clip your wings and it's hard to fly because you just feel so afraid. But just by giving someone a few simple techniques, they can immediately start feeling more confident.
Well, exactly. And it's not 1 dimension or 2 or 3. It's 6. Because if that person is not understanding that they need to be healthy for everything to come together, it's not going to work. Mm-hmm. Right? You need to start with yourself. I think the 6 dimensions of success cover everything.
And speaking of that, I do have a question for you, Dr. Asoka. What do you think about discipline? A lot of people will say that they have to be very disciplined in what they do to achieve a goal. And I would think that it's more around passion, but I was just wondering if you had any thoughts on that.
Take an artist, for example. Art requires discipline, absolutely. But at the same time, it needs creativity. So in all great works of art, you see absolute discipline and you see total creativity.
This book tells me that it has nothing to do with my age, my weight, anything, right? Everything is in play here. The potential, it's still a blank page for me. I just have to go in and get everything. And that is a priceless message. So if this book is not $10 million, it's a bargain, right?
So Dr. Asoka, I had a question for you. So when you do the trainings and you get these tough guy, hardcore executives up there dancing and they loosen up, what is like 1 or 2 of the things that for them is like the biggest eye opener? Like, oh my gosh, this is really life changing. I had never thought of that before. Thank you for sharing that with me.
Well, one of the questions one of the things that I discussed with them, I asked them to write down the goals in their life. And after they do that, then I tell them every thought you have, every action, every goal depends on who you think you are. If you think you are the best golfer in the world, you may not be the best golfer. You definitely try to win a major cup. But you may be a good golfer, but if you don't think you are that good, you would never even try to do that. So I make them realize that, you see, we don't know who we are because we didn't get an instruction manual when we were born.
Right.
So we have no idea who we are, and we struggle through life through trial and error to find out who we are. Now, then I tell them, look, you were born with limitless power, and that changes their self-perception, and they begin to realize that any limitations they think they have were self-imposed. So I give them a very simple formula for success. Your potential is limitless because you were born with it. All the limitations are self-imposed. Get rid of the limitations and you can reach the highest level of success in anything that you want to do. And that's what I have done. When I was 60, I looked 60. Now that I am 70, people say I look 50.
It's unbelievable.
What I love is it levels the playing field, right? Because there's always some people that think they're better than other people because of background or upbringing. And what it shows and what it proves is that we are only limited by our thoughts. And our thoughts can be implanted in there by, where we live and the people we interact with. But I know we've even had some people on the show prior to this that would say, well, in order for me to have changed the way I looked at things, I had to go look at another neighborhood to see how other people lived. And that shifted my thinking. And just that shift in thinking, I love what you bring to the book and what you're saying is because it's so powerful. It's so powerful. The way you talk to yourself, I think, is what really makes you who you are. Not the way other people talk to you, but what you think of yourself. I have another question for you. So were you always a flying penguin?
Well, I started becoming one after my 60th year. Up to my 60th year, I used to waddle along like everybody else. But once I had a taste for this, that you have power that you can't even imagine, then I set myself higher and higher goals. And every single one I achieved. For example, I won this Asia Pacific Award for outstanding contribution to HR in my 70th year. And I have never studied HR formally. That proved to me that if you love something, if you have a great passion for it, you can reach the highest level of success without any problem at all.
Yeah, and I think that people think that life is about struggle, that we have to struggle, that in order to become really successful, we have to struggle. And in the last, I would say like 15 to 20 years, you've been hearing more and more people. It started out as kind of a whisper, and now it's getting louder and louder. People saying your potential is limitless. It's really just you that's making yourself struggle. You don't have to struggle. You can shift what's happening.
Yeah, a lot of it has
you.
to do with that inner demon. There's nothing you can do. Nobody really cares. Why should I? I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. And if you shift that to how can I make a difference? What could I do to contribute?
Right.
And this is the way to do it. Flying Penguin is the book to get started with.
Right. And it is, and your book, like I said earlier, is so comprehensive, but yet it's not huge. There's just a lot of material in it. But the thing to do is to work with the book.
What do you suggest, Dr. Asoka? How do we measure if we're making progress?
Start with something small, which is kind of, you're pushing the frontier of reality. Once you achieve it, then hey, this stuff works. You start with something small, something that kind of, it's a stretch. And then you have to work at it. Now, that's why visualization only does not work. Now, another thing I learned, don't focus on the goal, focus on the behavior.
Mm.
So that's another important thing. If you focus on the goal and not the behavior, then very unlikely that you'll get there. But once you have a clear goal, and in my book, Flying Penguin, I say you fly with your mind to every goal you have achieved. So first you fly with your mind. Then it's very clear. You know what it looks like, what it tastes like, what it feels like. Then after that, you focus on the behavior. And the behavior will get you there. That's the secret that I found.
What is the difference between health and body?
Yeah, when I talk about body, I go into a little bit the Himalayan interpretation because they say you have chakras in the body. You have energy centers in the body. And there are 8 exercises which I describe in Flying Penguin. If you do those every day, it takes only about 10 minutes, you re-energize all the energy centers of the body. That's like a 1-hour workout in the gym, and I never go to the gym anyway. So that's the body. It's like your racing car. You got to make sure that everything is beautifully balanced and well serviced. Health depends to a great extent on what you eat and drink and what you think and the air you breathe. That's the kind of difference.
You look like you're in great shape.
This is fantastic work.
No, it was terrific. Thank you so much. And thank you for sharing about, becoming a flying penguin in your 60s, because that also, gives people something to aspire to. Because I think sometimes when people start hitting their 50s, they start thinking, well, it's just downhill from there. And thank you, everyone. This is Corporate Talk with Charlie and Eva. Have a great week.
Bye.